Hello and welcome to Split Decision episode 11. This week we have a special guest with us. Now, he is somebody who in the past has worked with The Rock, but let's be real, here on Double Peak, this is his true peak. We have got Goldenboy.
We literally just started and you already mentioned him. I can't, how do you, I keep letting you get away with it. I don't know how this is possible, but anyway, it's a pleasure to be on here, guys. I miss you all very much. How you doing?
Miss you too.
I'm doing pretty good. Obviously, Mitch is here as well, but I feel like that's a little bit more of a
And
given.
Danny. Let's not leave him out, all right?
And Danny, although if his lawyers are watching, not officially. But I just want to jump straight in. I feel like we got so much to talk about in this week's episode, and we're going to be looking at lock-in, of course. So I kind of want to get you guys' opinions on everything straight off the bat of like, we went into this tournament, we looked at sort of the format of it. Maybe we're a little bit skeptical, GB. Did you enjoy it? Did you have a good time with what was a crazy single elimination tournament?
Yeah, so it went against everything that I have come to understand and respect as like the foundations of esports, you know? Where like you do a tournament, a big tournament like this, it's usually double elimination. You usually have like BO5s or something, you know, so like to see it be a BO3 and it just single elim bracket really threw me off at first. But what I didn't realize going into it, what I didn't expect, and also too, because like, you know, to be frank, like the tournament didn't really like, I don't want to say it didn't mean anything because it did. You still won a tournament against some of the greatest players in the world. I know, right?
Don't do that.
But the tournament didn't have large implications for the season as a whole outside of the extra slot that EMEA got because of Fnatic's win. So that I think that's good, but it doesn't really have like the staying power that I thought it would. That being said, all that just got pushed to the side because it just is apparent that people just want to watch Valorant games that mean something, and every single game at Lock-In meant something. So yeah, overall, I mean, it was a win. Going into it, didn't think it was going to be a win. Then coming out of it, I was like, yeah, no, that was a pretty good tournament. I wouldn't mind doing that every year, honestly.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like as a one-off, it was pretty cool. Mitch, other than your pick'ems, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, listen, the pick'ems, they really went downhill quickly. No, look, I think the tournament itself, it was weird because the experience on the ground was fantastic. Being there with the crowd especially, it was great to see. I think we had some fantastic games, some high-stakes games, and it paid off in a large extent with some of the matches that we got. So it's hard to argue that it was a bad format in that sense. I think the problem is more so looking at the experience of a lot of the fans of the esport that end up watching one game of their team. You know, we're really limiting the content that you get to get out of these international events. You know, the storyline of teams that lost at this event, they barely come close. And Tom, something you mentioned earlier on today was Gen G, and we'll discuss them in depth later, I'm sure, but their story, for example, was extremely short, and I can't help but wonder if this was a more traditional Masters event, or international event, like a Masters event, I should say, and they had come along as a representative of the region. Even if they didn't win a game, I still think they would have a stronger story, but given that ability to come back through a lower bracket, I don't know, man. That could have been one of those teams that ends up taking a trophy at the end of it. You never know, and we really cut out the opportunity for those Cinderella stories here. Granted, though, we got some great ones in their place.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, I think that, especially with the split of the two brackets, that was the one thing that I'm not sure I enjoyed as much because I think, I don't know if you felt this, GB, but after like the first one, by the time you got into the second bracket, you kind of forgot like half of the teams that got eliminated in the first round.
Yeah. It was a dramatic tone switch, right? We went from like hype-ass games to get these players into the playoffs and reset. And that was honestly really weird because you felt like the stakes of each game was more profound as each round went on. So I never worked a tournament in my time where, you know, you do all this stuff and then out of nowhere it's like, okay, we're done. And then we're going to reset this again. It was honestly really, really weird. And I will agree. Like if there was one piece of criticism that I have on the format, it was definitely that. But I also understand why it was formatted the way that it was formatted, because otherwise we would have been working 15-hour days and we're working 10-hour days at that point. So I don't know if
it would have been a packed hotel bar.
Yeah.
I think that's another way to look at it.
That's
it's
true.
There would have been so many teams there at once. But I also want to just touch on, I think, Mitch as well. Like we were in Brazil. I think it's one of those places. Was it your first time in Brazil?
Second time. Yeah. Second time for me. First for you guys.
So no,
First
I've been.
me,
I think that was my number 4. But for Mitch, I want to know your opinion on Brazil, because obviously we saw a lot from the crowd being really hyped about the Brazilian teams. For you, as that your sort of first experience of Brazil, what did you find of it?
Well, the thing for me, even though at Alpha Group the crowd was only starting to fill out, I mean, looking at the finals, it was insane. But just going to and from the venue was such a nice atmosphere. Walking in behind the crowd, talking to some of the fans. The food in the country was absolutely amazing. I know we didn't really venture too far, but
Pizza Hut. Don't break up Pizza Hut.
Listen. You said the magic words, my man. I mean, listen, the food was great, and it peaked on that last day on the way home. I was sad to leave, and then I was even heartbroken to leave after I tasted that beautiful Pizza Hut in the airport. What can I say? And nothing but good memories.
GB, you liked your time in Brazil. Can you name something that wasn't Pizza Hut that you enjoyed in terms of food, please?
Dude. So it was actually cracked me up because y'all it seemed like a lot of people weren't vibing with rice and beans. But that was just...
I liked it after you introduced me to some of the stuff. Because that's the thing. I think of baked beans as like British baked beans. And I don't like those. Whereas like beans with like... What was the little like powder stuff?
Farofa.
What was that?
Farofa.
That you introduced me
it's
to?
yuca powder called farofa. And it's so delicious because like it just kind of takes the rice and the beans and it takes the juices from there and it soaks everything up. And then it turns it into this like... I don't want to say like paste, but it makes it into a harder consistency, but not in a manner where it's like you're crunching. It just makes it thicker. And it's so freaking good, especially when you combine it with the rice and stuff. Catering for me every day was amazing. So I was living my best life. But I know like some of the other people who don't like beans are just like, oh, beans again. And I'm like, oh, beans again? Let's go.
Disgusting. Who are these people? Honestly, I was sickened to see the bean slander in the green room. It sent me into spirals.
Well, Jen,
I got to tell you, I could barely sleep at night.
The Korean translator.
Outrageous claims.
She said beans will kill you. And I was like, I'm almost certain it's the opposite.
No. No, they'll make you big and strong.
I think she said
make
bad
you healthy.
for you. I don't think she said kill you.
Or
I don't
bad
think
for
she
you.
was like murderous beans.
It turned out she meant it's bad for your skin, and maybe, but it's delicious.
Let me tell you, baby,
you know
my things be shining beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Look, I got a nice pimple. It's great.
Say the same myself. Yeah, same.
Okay, before
those
we
beans,
derail
bro,
too far,
we're getting fucked up.
I want to just go straight in and talk about the grand final, because we're going to go through and talk about like teams, performances, and everything. But I think the thing that is fresh on everybody's mind, and GB even mentioned it to me today, that grand final, no matter the format, no matter what happened before that, I think it has to be one of, if not the best grand final we've ever seen in Valorant.
Yes. I would even go as far as to say up there with the Boston Major. I think, I like it. That was how good it was for me. I was watching it and there's the thing. I was thankfully present at the Boston Major and witnessed it live, and it was incredible. But like to be home and witness it was equally as entertaining. Like for like everyone brought it. For like it was, from across the board. Production was there, the crowd was there. Obviously people will have criticisms regarding the ending and the fans rolling out. And we could probably dive into that after the fact, but just the fact that like the final happened the way that it did, they go up 2-0. You think this is going to be a trouncing. These people are done, loud, exposed on the main stage for the first time ever. This is not how the story ends. And then they come back and then they fight back. And then you think that surely Fnatic exposed, how are they supposed to come back? And then they come back. And it had everything. Like my favorite part about this was with my wife. We were watching it and she doesn't know Valorant. It's not like, a thing that she's like particularly into. She's more of a Halo gal, right? That's her jam.
Oh,
and
that's a shame.
I respect.
Everyone, you can't yuck the yum, man. You can't yuck the yum. So we were watching and Fnatic were up 2-0. And what was map 3? It was split, right? I believe it was. I want to say it was split.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then, you know,
Yeah,
I was telling my wife, I was just like, hey, you know, like they might be able to win this one. Like Loud could win this, but I think this is going to end 3-1. So she kind of like checked out and was like, okay, cool. And then just went about her day. And then they came back.
Mhm.
And then we're in Icebox. And then we had Icebox and my wife's like, you told me it was done. I believed you. And I was like, I don't know what's happening right now. And then the 11-3
I believed
happened.
me.
And then the 11-3 happened. And that's when I told her with my whole chest, I was like, what a shame, but what a comeback. That's it. This is over. Because statistically speaking, it should have been like, they probably would have gotten that, you know, the first gun round. But then after that, like you're talking about 2 rounds. 2 rounds. That's it.
Yeah.
Nuts. So then she comes back in and then she's like, you lied to me. How am I supposed to believe what you say as a host of this show when you can't even tell me whether and I was like, I always said there was an option, that there was a way, but it was a slim way. It just happens that the slim way is the way. You know, it was great. Oh man, what a final, dude. What a final.
It's literally
we watched it together, like on the watch party with Ryan as well. And I think every single one of us went through like, I want to say like the 5 stages of grief, but also just like pure celebration and elation at the end. Because it was like, I'll be honest, I said after it went 2-2, I was like, Fnatic have lost. I was 100% sure because I was like, they didn't seem like the team for me that could come back from that sort of like mental state of like, we were 2-0 up. We basically had this done and then we were losing. And I just didn't see them coming back.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of the videos released by them, but it's like, it's almost like just something happened in that moment. I think Durka gave some inspirational speeches. They've released, I think today, the sort of like all the comms of what it was like in that moment. But I still, even after all of that, I can't believe they turned it around.
Yeah.
There was a moment, and I think we'll get Tobin to pull up the picture, and I think everyone will know exactly what I'm talking about. But that moment with Boaster, that close up where he is just defeated. He looks so ready to go home. He's already thinking about the early wake up in the morning for the airport. Like it looked like it was gone. And that was the moment where I was like, well, you know, it's already 11-3. That face, I'm like, I'm checked out. It's done. It is done. Without a doubt in my mind, that man has lost the game because look at his face. But it's what's going on inside. He was experiencing all those emotions. They all were, but to keep it together in those moments, it's not only it's like the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that fairy tale ending to Taco's story. You know, we've seen the comparisons out there, the wonderful comeback. You know, guys, if you really believe us here on Nuke, you really believe in this team, show them now. You know, we're down, whatever it was, 14-1, 15-1. And then they're like, did you come back? He's like, no, of course not. We lost like the next round. But this was that moment, but from my childhood, but lived out in the perfect fairy tale ending. It's also, you know, that the TI they made, the very first thing that got on my screen that had anything to do with Dota was that TI true site that they made about OG's comeback.
Yeah.
And that I have always, since the day I watched that, like that gets still to this day a rise out of me in my chest, just going through the motions with them.
About Dota.
I still don't know what's going on, but Sam, you know, like I'm there. Let's go, spin around.
It's an easy story, right?
And so
like,
is this.
You're just it's about adversity. And here's the interesting thing: it honestly could have been either way, right? Like that's the better part about it. This wasn't just Fnatic's story. This was Fnatic and Loud's story. And there was a lot to it. There was, you know, Loud with 2 young players who were clearly pulling their weight, that were really trying to defy it all, win back-to-back championships, like do something that had not been done in the game before, but also do it in Brazil. Like that was sick. Then the Alfier story and how like Loud took the opportunity away from Alfier to play in a grand final in front of his people in Istanbul. So now this time he took it away from the Brazilian team in Brazil. Like that was sick. Boaster, you know, forever the bridesmaid, never the bride. Durka, is he the best player in the world? I don't know. Same thing for Ospas.
The king of Icebox.
like you just yeah. And then what was even better was that Icebox was truly. I mean, I don't know if you guys felt like this as well, but it was a philosophy diff as well. Like you have the old version of Icebox, which was the Fnatic way. You know, heavy reliance on the Sage, right? Walls into plants, like things that we have come to know and love, and also kind of hate about Icebox. But then here comes Loud.
Oh, very much hate.
Very much hate. But then here comes Loud with Harbor and makes it into like a dueling kind of concept of like, how do you want to try and attack the sites? You know, and one agent can really just be the difference between how you execute one play versus how you execute the other. So it really was a philosophy difference as well of like how they viewed Icebox versus how Loud viewed Icebox. And also the fact that it was Icebox. Which is another thing where that map has been historically like a lot of people just don't like that map, like look down upon it quite a bit.
Fnatic do.
Yeah,
me
Fnatic
too.
Do.
Yeah,
that was the thing.
Yeah, and here it is. It was the map of the tournament because sometimes it just works like that. You know, it genuinely incredible. I couldn't believe my eyes, man. That needs to be.
It throws me back. It does, and it throws me back to a movie set in the same place, an icy arena. The only thing we're missing is a bar fight between Boaster and one of the boys, probably Aspas. The two of them throwing hands before that final match would have made this Cool Runnings. If Fnatic had then lost, right? But they missed the bar fight and they won in the end. Like it's such a gorgeous story for me, honestly. Looking at these guys, actually, it's almost an argument that there's more depth to this story than there is in Cool Runnings because of all those intertwined histories we just spoke about. And Cool Runnings is one of the greatest movies of all time. So I'm gonna watch that tonight. You know what?
That's what he realized.
God, I missed that.
He really just wanted to say it so that he could say, "Watch Cool Runnings tonight."
Yeah, I think as we've somehow ended up at Cool Runnings, I think it might be time to move away from the amazing grand final. And I want to now discuss who were the overperformers or who exceeded expectations. I'll say it in a nicer way. And who do we think underperformed? And I kind of want to start with who we think exceeded expectations. Now, I've got a couple that I think to list, but I want to sort of throw it to the floor first and say, is there anybody that you guys think, okay, I think they did much better than I thought they would going.
Hey, I got to throw my hands up and say Talon immediately.
Yeah,
way above the standard I expected. Because I think EG did well. I wouldn't say they underperformed. I think they did okay. They did what I expected. Solid performance. They played a good game. I thought they'd make it further in the tournament, but that's because I grossly underestimated Talon. This could have been another finalist. And again, you know, it sort of brings me back to that Cinderella story, a lower bracket. Talon, definitely a team that I would put a lot of stake in if that.
They almost beat DRX as well. I think that's the crazy thing about it. Like, they came in, I think most of us, including myself, went, they don't have Paddy Pan. This team's not going to be as good. And I was like, okay, I think they'll get past MIBR, but that's about it. It doesn't matter who they play next. They almost beat DRX. They took them to 3 maps, which, okay, a fair few teams did, but that was an absurd performance from, again, 2 very young players in Jitboy and Garnet as well, who I think we've never really seen on an international scale before. So the fact they were that good off the bat, that impressed me a lot.
And also, too, like, that was a close Icebox game as well, right? And if I'm correct, they
tried to play them at their own game.
They were using same comps, right? They were using the same comps. It was like, you know, ambitious as hell from Talon. So I will agree with you on that. Talon definitely one of the highest overperformers at this tournament, but in a good way. And it makes me extremely excited to see them in Pacific League. Like, I'm going to watch Pacific League so I can watch them play, you know, because I'm curious.
Sure.
I'm curious to see if the hype is real or if that was just, we happen to pop off at a tournament. You know what I mean? Because that's the other thing too, right? Like, week to week leagues are very different from week to week tournaments. The atmosphere is completely different. Like, the way that you approach the game is completely different. Like, that is going to be very important for a lot of these teams going into it, because sure, they were doing it before with like challenger seasons and how that played out. But now that everything's on LAN, they're all in the same location. They're prepping together all the time, and they're, you know, meeting their opponents face to face constantly. That is really going to change the dynamic of like how these teams function and work in conjunction.
That's Talon's thing as well. Is I feel like Talon, it was the same in their previous roster of Xerxia and even X10 before that. They were surprising because they came up with cool things off the bat.
Yeah.
Can you do that 8 weeks in a row? That's really tough. That's what Paper X are struggling with. Is that they can't do it all the time. So.
And one of the big things, we're saying it really does test a different aspect of the team, and more so now. You're going to have the team management looked at as well. You're moving for a number of weeks of, a big section of the year. And depending on how long you want to boot camp for beforehand, some of these players could be spending, definitely over a quarter of the year there. If you're 3 or 4 months in the one location, you're losing your comforts of home. We've already seen an event like Lock-In that could be a month dedicated abroad, have some players need to go back home and take time away from the schedule. So it's a big commitment for those players, and I think having the comforts of home or being introduced to new ones wherever their regional base is, it's a big test for these guys. Just getting your diet in shape, getting your routine there and everything in order, as well as being turning up to scrims and turning up to officials week in, week out with the same attitude that you do when it's just one BO3 and maybe you go home. It's a very different, as you said, atmosphere.
Yeah. One team that I am actually going to give some love to, there are a few, but the one that I felt, I might get flamed for this, but I'm okay. All right. One that I felt overperformed.
Carmine Corp.
No.
Oh.
No. Was I'm actually pretty big on FUT. FUT actually played.
That was my second team.
That was my solid event, man. They could have beaten 100 Thieves on Haven. They got really close.
Who could have seen that coming, Tom? Huh?
I'm gonna give some spoilers though. I also have 100 Thieves in my underperformance category. So it's one of those things where I think that I do think FUT played very well. I think for me, Kiwi, I expected him to be very good. He's always been very good. He is the epitome of what I would consider like a Turkish duelist. Like he's just unbelievable in those really aggressive fights. The player I want to highlight though was I think it's Curax. Or Cracks, as I like to call him.
Yeah.
He was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I think he was one of the players where I think if they had a bit more time or even just had a slightly different bracket, he could have been one of the best players to watch in the tournament. It just was, they came up against 100 Thieves. But that's sort of the question I'm asking myself is going into the league, are they going to be as good week in, week out? Because ultimately, I think that their opposition wasn't at the epitome of some of the other teams we have in the event.
Yeah,
that's the only criticism I
think
them.
I think Fnatic winning that 4th spot is great for teams like FUT. Because I think that FUT could be one of the squads that is potentially contending for that. I do think though that what was it, Heretics? Because I really liked what I saw from Heretics. They seem pretty solid, but again, kind of hard to like judge based on their one game.
Or Giants?
Sorry, Giants. My bad.
Okay,
Right,
I was
now I'm
about
with
to
you.
say,
I'm with you now.
My bad.
I was like, if you
I was
were
letting
going
you
to say
cook, brother.
Kellogg's
I
was
was letting you
good,
cook.
maybe, but like, I was like, okay,
bad.
GB,
I meant Giants.
you said like being crazy or FUT, and now you've said that, and I really would have called you.
Yeah. I meant Giants, but honestly, 2 Spanish orgs, so I kind of flip them back in my mind.
You could have said Koi as well, so then you'd have the third one.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I mean, well, funny enough, Koi is another one that like we really didn't get to see a lot from. Like they lost to NRG. I think that Koi is going to be a lot better.
NRG?
Yeah. They were the first game of the tournament. They were.
It's tough, man.
And they almost took a map, which honestly, with a brand, I think of everybody, and obviously this is me guessing, but I think they had the least practice time because they literally were able to use Starzo from the 1st of January because he was still under contract, I believe, with Ascend. So I think that they had no practice time, and for that, coming up against NRG, previous best team of last year, or the core of it, they look pretty good.
They looked really good.
I'll give them a little bit of credit.
They looked really good. But,
I mean,
I was just going to say real fast on Giants. The thing that impressed me a lot about this team is that they showed that, kind of like with FUT, they showed that they had a lot of layers, that they have the tools there that they can actually like execute and be a threat in the region. This will be a team that I think is going to benefit probably the most from that 4th spot that Fnatic got. because I do think that this is I think we're going to see Giants in Tokyo. Like I would not be shocked if we
have a segment on that later, GB. So if you could like not jump the gun, that'd be really
okay.
cool.
All right. I'm so sorry.
Spoilers on GB's
Oh
list.
no!
But
This guy.
I wanna go on, Mitch.
I'll just say NRG as well. Like, you got to realize, like, that game against Loud, they opened up. I don't know what happened on map 1. I don't want to even guess, but they got demolished 13-3. After that, NRG were very close to taking Loud down. It was multiple overtimes on the last 2 maps, could easily have went their way. And if NRG had made it that extra leg, potentially to the finals, yada yada, you come out of this with a very different view of Koi and Giants as a general viewer than you did with the result. Like, I think it's very easy to just look at, Loud demolished, everyone else there was pretty underwhelming, but actually most of the teams there, Gen G, Koi, Giants, hell, you could argue KC were decently close on both maps.
I'd maybe give a slight shout out to, because they actually went really close versus Loud, but everybody kind of forgets about that.
No,
because
we
it
kept
happened
mentioning
so
them.
long ago.
We kept mentioning them on the desk because I was like, this actually looks really good for Gen G. Like the whole time, I was like, this is pretty good, because you're gonna go back and look and see a 2-0, but they were close games. Like Gen G could have won that fracture game, and then we're talking about a completely different bracket potentially, because I think that Gen G would have beaten Carmine Core and Gen G could have beaten NRG. So,
But Carmine Core were meant to get to the semifinals, according to Mitchman.
Yeah. Listen, again, if we take a look, you just open that Loud page, Pearl 13-10, 13-8
you're
on
gonna
Split.
look like an idiot when Scream IGLs them all the way to the final.
That was with Scream trying something new that maybe, he has or hasn't. I'm going to say on record, I definitely have heard him say he's not comfortable on those roles. So if he's then coming in not comfortable on these roles, or recently learning to be comfortable on those roles, and then leading the team, and they still manage up against Loud to have 13-10, 13-8 respectable score lines, losing both pistols on Split, mind you. I think I'll give it to them, Tom. I think they earn more respect.
You guys should do a segment. Just hear me out. Just a segment called the Carmine Tracker, and it's just Mitch really just coping hard the entire season or Mitch is copium.
Coping with the wins the whole time.
Coipium. Mitch is coipium. That's the segment.
God.
And it's just Mitch.
But it's for KC. It's not for Koi.
Fuck it. It works. And you
could just do Carmine Copium. Like, it literally writes itself.
It doesn't matter. Point is, write the segment however the hell you want it, damn it. Make a title card. I don't give a crap. We had one called Bird Watching, for goodness sake. Just make the segment, and then it's just every week Mitch just coping hard for Carmine Core each and every week until
it's gonna be tough. Tough coping with all these wins.
I will watch that segment every week. Just so you guys
Man, I don't know how to cope with that many dubs. I don't know if I can keep up, but I can try. So, I guess I'll try my best.
Moving swiftly on, who do we think underperformed? Now, there's an obvious one. So who's taken the obvious underperformer? Anyone want to raise their hand?
It rhymes with Iquid and performed like shit.
Well, I actually okay, Liquid, yes. Liquid, I think across the board, I think everyone can agree Liquid was rough, but it pains me to say this, guys, because we love them very much, but Paper X,
they're also on my list, so I'm not gonna.
Paper X is my number one. Like Liquid, honestly,
I can't believe it.
I don't know why, but I'm not shocked. That hurts to say.
I feel like Liquid for me, Liquid underperformed to such a degree that they need their own list, and Paper X can be number one of the list of teams that probably should have been better.
You're not wrong on that. And I feel bad for them too, because like the Liquid guys,
man, I love them.
They looked really they looked like they were in good spirits the entire time. Every time we saw them, they always looked like they were vibing. Redgar, amazing. Love that guy. He really just across the board just felt like they came out of there and were just a wet fart, and that was just the long and short of it. Like there was no other way to really put it, and I'm really bummed out about it, because I mean, come on, dude, you got some beasts on this team, bro. Just Yumpy alone is like, man, I don't know. So that
you signed what? 2021's best player, arguably, in Nats.
Yep.
Yeah.
He looked okay. Like, he had some rounds, but it was like, that was basically all we had to write home about. You had a Masters winning and Champions finalist IGL. Again, I hate to say it, but I don't think you could tell. The team looked really disjointed. Safe, I think his best performance was on LAN. He was an incredible Jet player when he was playing for Guild. He'd switched up a bit in terms of some of the roles he was playing. It didn't look anywhere near as good. And Solkaz had a really rough tournament for someone who we talk about being incredibly flexible.
That's why we couldn't have Sue on here.
The meta's kind of about to maybe change a little bit with a new agent. Maybe they'll be able to come up with something new, but they're ones where I think, like Paper X, I was disappointed, but I can give them the benefit of the doubt that Cloud9 had a lot of good players. You can get boomed by that sometimes.
They also had a lot of prep work on them.
Didn't look that good.
Yeah, they had a lot of time to prep on them.
But no offense to Secret, they looked better than I thought they would, but that was a Team Liquid super team. You not winning that game, or you not even making it look that close, that's completely unacceptable. I feel like they should have been able to beat them without even having that many strats.
I hate to bring it to a transitive property, but in the majority of these cases, I'm going to look at an opening game from Liquid and say, okay, they need time, yada, yada. That's all cool. But was this loss that bad, even that considered? And yes, it was, because when you look at Team Secret, they almost have to have a good tournament run then to make up for it, you know? If you are Sentinels and you lost to Fnatic, you go, shit, we didn't even get a map. This sucks. And then you go home and you watch the rest of the event and go, actually, I think our contract can still look pretty good,
fine.
you know? It's all sweet, because we were maybe finalists, you know? And so this is...
Which we always knew from that run up side, to it. Right? We always knew that with Sentinels and Fnatic, that one of those two were going to be in a position to make it to playoffs, right? That was always a given, just because of how talented both of those teams are. But you're not wrong on Liquid. You look at that and it's because then you see how Secret played against Na'Vi. And again, you know, not to take anything away from Secret, but they honestly just looked lost out there.
No contest.
You know, they looked like they were unsure about what the hell they even needed to do. And Na'Vi were playing a great tournament, to be fair. So I think that also is a plus. But
here's the problem, you know, they've got to go back and play against Na'Vi regionally, right, to fight for their spot internationally. That's sort of the question for me of this tournament. What is the point of it? Like, obviously it's, and they've said it themselves, right, it's a celebration of Valorant, but I want to look deeper than that, and we all do. We want to find, like, okay, but what does it tell us about the teams? And for me, I've gone in and said, okay, and I think as we've touched on so far even here, it's a barometer for the success they're going to have regionally, and Liquid alarm bells have got to be ringing, and you know for a fact they were after that game. This isn't the result they wanted. It's devastating. Maybe they had a little bit of cope in the back of their mind going, maybe Team Secret are the best team of all time. No, Na'Vi just demolished them. Okay, boys.
Yeah, like, and we all thought that Secret were the real deal. Remember coming out of that, we were like, yo, is Secret legit? What the hell? This is real.
And then path of least resistance.
Yeah, Vashers now. Jesse Vashers. Let's do this.
Vashers in chat. Let's go.
And then Na'Vi game happened. You're like, oh, actually, Liquid might have just been bad. Like, that is not good. So yeah, but another team that I will also say I'm a little disappointed in, truthfully, because I'm such huge fans of them, is Zeta Division. You know, like I don't understand what they were trying to accomplish, moving their star player away from the Jet like that. Like, why are you taking Laz, who the man is I understand.
The only thing I'll say with this is he was never that player. Like, he went from basically a Sentinel to Chamber when Chamber meta came in, and now he's gone back to where he was before. So I kind of get it. The only thing I will say is there was a time a long time ago where he played. Mitch hates me. I bring this up too often, but he played a Yoru op, and it was so fucking good. Like, he would just rotate around.
Budapest game and week all over again.
Infinite like rotations with the operator, and he was so good at it. So I get what you're saying, but at the same time, they've kind of just gone back to what they were doing before Chamber was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And although that's not the smartest of moves, I think the other thing as well is, like, you then have Depp, who, if he's not playing the sort of superstar Jet role, I don't know what he does. That's the only problem.
Yeah.
I will say, going into that series, I expect Leviathan to demolish them. And I think the fact that they came out with at least a second map recovery on Pearl, like, showed that maybe the map pool coming into this event, maybe they were like, look, Ascent's kind of on the edge of our map pool. We'll let it through and hope that Leviathan don't. Oh shit, they've picked it. And they just got demolished and then came in with their game plan. If we'd have seen a Haven, maybe this would have been. I can't remember what the game was I referenced earlier. It was actually NRG Loud, right?
Yeah.
Split, which was NRG's pick in this case, which is the funny part about it. But they got 13-3'd, bounced back to 15-13 win, and 18-16 loss. You know, so it's really tough with a 13-11 follow-up map. I think Zeta are the team that came to this event with the expectation on them to get no maps, at least to get no series. So
yeah, because they had Leviathan.
Exactly. I don't want to beat on them too hard.
I have a hot take. It's gonna cause problems. Okay.
Oh God. Okay.
We're talking about underperforming teams.
Hit me.
Leviathan.
Yes.
Leviathan.
I'm gonna say it. I think that
they crushed Vitality.
Yeah, they crushed Vitality because they were supposed to crush Vitality.
That's
But
true.
This is a team that was coming around. Literally, all we could hear about leading into the event was about how Leviathan were the best team in the world, and the Scrimbucks, and then this, and then that, and it's like
it's all going to dry out a lot, huh?
This is why don't put the Scrimbucks out there.
Is that them underperforming or being? Yeah, is that them underperforming or is that them being overhyped?
You know, a good pivot to save the show. I think that I think that actually is. I say underperformed because genuinely I expected them, you know, in that match against Fnatic. I had them going all the way. I thought Fnatic was going to win that game no matter what. No. I thought that they were going to beat Leviathan and then lose the Fnatic.
Oh, you mean back in
Navi?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought they were going to beat Navi and then lose the Fnatic. And and I thought that they were going to beat Navi. Like, you know, I thought it was going to be not a stomp, but I thought it was going to be a decisive win, maybe like a few 13-10.
Well,
maybe.
It was just the other way around.
Exactly. It was the other way around. And I think that just goes to show it's like these Scrimbucks, you know, and you go up against players with the experience that Navi has, you better come with more than Scrimbucks, you know, because they're going to cash that out every time.
I think the same sort of thing is how I feel about 100 Thieves, but 100 Thieves are more... I think their other matches also made me a bit worried for them because, like, I expected 100 Thieves to come in, have a couple of clean wins versus Edward, who I thought they should beat quite easily. They didn't. Versus Foot, who I thought they should beat quite easily, and they nearly lost. Mm-hmm. And then they got smashed by Fnatic. Like, that game, the second map looks close, but it wasn't. They won 3 rounds in a map and a half, and then it was just that second half of Icebox that they managed to look okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're a team that I thought were contenders for the title, and by the end of the event, honestly, I think if they didn't, if they faced up again, if they were in any other part of the bracket, I think they're out maybe even first round. Like, that's not what I expected from this team that has not only upgraded to get Cryo in, but also just had a team of, like, young superstars. So,
I mean, Tom,
they're one I think should have been better.
They went to overtime on the 3rd map against Edward Gaming.
Exactly.
They almost did get. You're talking about if they'd been in a different bracket, they almost did get round 1. If they got anyone else, I'm trying to think, who would I put them against that I'd maybe Detonation. Maybe.
Oh, they'd smash Detonation. Like, Detonation got.
So they've got one other bracket that would put them in a good spot, and I think any of the other 30 teams they would get smashed.
They still would.
That is true. They would have got round 2 then instead. You know, it's like, that's crazy.
This was the best path for them, and even then, and it was the easiest path for them. Like, I hate to say it because it sounds disparaging to them, but I think the only other pathway would have been Vitality's path. Actually, no. I stand corrected. Not Vitality's path, because Vitality ended up running against Leviathan, and then they would have gotten Giga Clapped. So.
And then Navi.
Yeah, and then they would have played Navi. Like, no matter what, there was just no way that they were going to make it to this point. Like, I was always going to be Navi, Leviathan, and Fnatic. It was always going to be those 3 teams in those final 2 spots to play for the final. At least to me, from the start of the tournament, looking at the bracket.
or a surprise. I honestly, I put a lot of stock in Team Liquid. I expected a stronger performance there. So like, again, though, them being blocked out by Navi in the bracket, it just puts it into perspective, you know. And again, Sentinels, you know, that first game defined everything. Sentinels and Fnatic were very interchangeable for the entire bracket, I think. But obviously EMEA pays off this time. Unlucky.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of tying into the next topic I have, which I think will be quite a brief one, just because we've kind of discussed a lot of it already. But do you think the top 4 teams of the event were the top 4 teams of the event, or is there someone that you think, okay, I reckon if I swap them out, we actually have a more competitive semifinal?
No, I think this was. I think this was the perfect top 4. If you had
I guess you could say Leviathan.
I was going to say Leviathan.
You literally did say Leviathan.
Yeah. But like honestly, this was the perfect.
What about NRG? I think because DRX for me, they were very good, but looked a little bit questionable at times. I think if you swapped them with NRG, it might have gone a different way.
I honestly think that if Talent had have swapped out for DRX as well, you still could have ended up with a very competitive game there. Like,
but I guess DRX did beat Talon, so that one can't really.
That's the thing. You
can't swap a team that lost to the other team.
That's just not allowed. Okay.
I swapped DRX.
Put Liquid in for.
That's wild.
No, the only argument that I would have on the performances is like an NRG or a Talon making top 4, but then looking at the top 4 teams that are there, there's no one that I would say. Yeah. Oh no, that's a stomp. That's easy.
There were no flukes. I think for this top 4, even though Na'Vi, lost 3-0, it's still, you still had like 2 close games. Was it game 1 and 2 or game 1 and 3? I don't remember, but you still had some decently close games that got you thinking like maybe Na'Vi can actually pull this off. I still think that Fnatic and not just the tournament as a whole, but just in general. I think Fnatic were coming into this as just the superior team, plain and simple. I mean, look at their path, right? Sentinels, Fnatic, 13-6, 13-7. Fnatic, Furia. Now, Furia took them to distance on Haven, but then after that, Ascent, that was all Fnatic. Then you go to Fnatic, 100 Thieves. I mean, Fracture, Jesus Christ, that wasn't even like relatively close. And then you look at
even first half of Icebox, that wasn't close either.
Oh yeah, it was 10-2, and it came from heroics on the defensive side for 100 Thieves to like actually get back into this. And then you fast forward to Fnatic, and it's like everything here with Fnatic makes sense, and there's just no world that you swap them out, especially after the first win against Sentinels. That should have told us everything we needed to know about how good this team was going into this, because I had Sentinels very high up there, not just because of America's bias or anything, but just you could look at the fucking talent on the team, bro. Like, Sasi and Pincata, fucking, like, I'm sorry, them alone just makes me excited, right? So I feel like there was just a lot of there was a lot of doubters going into this for Fnatic, and rightfully so, because they literally almost gave it up at the end. But I don't think that we could have asked for a better top 4. The only one would have been maybe if Leviathan beat Na'Vi. Maybe. But honestly, Na'Vi deserved that top 4.
Okay. Well, now it's time for GB's already predicted one team, but we're going to try and predict the rest.
Oh, shut it.
Who do we think who do we think is going to be making it to Japan from each region? So, being as this is an EMEA podcast, sorry, GB, I want to start with EMEA.
Hey, you guys are the current winners. You're the current kings at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, you know? The champs,
baby.
But
mathematically
I've
better.
done mine
4,
in
3,
order.
3.
I don't know if anybody else is going to have done it in a different order, but who do we think is going to win EMEA? Who's going to be that number 1 team? I have a feeling we might have all stuck with Fnatic, so I might just want to get that one out of the way. Anybody not picking Fnatic as number 1 in EMEA?
Dude, honestly, it's really hard for me to pick Fnatic because they always seem to struggle in the moments when they don't need to. So I'm gonna go with Na'Vi coming out first. For the split, but yeah, I think for the split, Na'Vi.
Is Fnatic then second?
Yes, Fnatic second.
Okay. Mitch, what order have you gone in for the first 2? Because I think honestly 3 and 4 for EMEA is where it gets more interesting. So I kind of want to just say like, hey, number 1, number 2, Fnatic Na'Vi or Na'Vi Fnatic.
Fnatic Na'Vi.
Yeah,
just like that.
I have also done Fnatic Na'Vi. So I think this is where things will get a little bit more spicy and we might have a bit of a discussion. GB, number 3 EMEA, where you going?
Whew, golly, boys. You know, I'm gonna give it to
Carmine Corp?
to Koi.
Koi?
To Koi, that's
Okay.
a left field
You haven't
pick.
mixed them up with Giants.
No,
just
no.
for reference. Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Can't mix that one up. I don't know what it is, man, but obviously I don't think we got the most that we could get out of Koi. I think that they had some hard fights. NRG is a tough opponent. I think they could have beaten Giants, and then I think they ultimately would have lost a Loud. But
Okay.
I want to give that to Koi.
Mitch, number 3?
Number 3 for me, it's got to be the big boys. Got a picture beside him. It looked like it was in a waxworks museum. It's Giants. I mean, look, these guys, realistically, that right now they looked exactly like GB was saying earlier. They looked so clean. I was impressed. I even said it to Milan. You know, I thought they'd come in and play good, but their structure and their discipline caught me off guard completely when we saw that first game. So, yeah, I'm going to go with them as number 3. I think they'll be able to push through.
Yeah.
Well, I actually have the same, which is surprising. Me and Mitch doing the same thing is very rare. I think a lot of the testament that you're coming into is that they've got a very good coach in Pipson. They've got a very good analyst in Milan. I think the staff behind them are fantastic, so I want to give them a lot of credit. Also, my one sort of question mark with this team, well, firstly, the leadership of Ryan, but that seems to be going well. But Vitinho was my question mark. The man dropped like 35 kills in the map.
Bro, he was disgusting.
I'm removing that question mark. He was fucking unbelievable.
Question marks no more, bro. That guy was
no more,
fucking filthy. It was honestly really fun to watch him play. Like he was the one that like made me into like a fan, you know, of this team. And that's why, which means it's a good segue, I picked them as my 4th. So that's why the only reason why I put Koi above Giants is honestly, it's kind of like a wild card pick, from being real. Like there's a possibility that Koi could do it. I just don't know much. I haven't seen what I needed to see, but what I did see was a strong game against NRG, a team that had a fantastic core. With and especially with the addition of artists, Sam played incredibly. So I was like, they faced a brick wall, Koi. Now I'm curious to see what happens. So that's why I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, if Giants end up in 3rd, though, I'm so happy about that. I'm more than satisfied. But yeah.
Okay.
I
So
mean,
no Liquid. Haven't had the comeback. Mitch, where are you going number 4?
I mean, I'm not on the same lines. I got to agree with some of what GB's saying, but Vitality, they're making it up there for me.
I mean, you can't have the same list.
Wait, you both have Vitality? So I thought about Vitality genuinely, but the reason why I was against it was only because I don't know. I felt like they might have hit like a good stride at the tournament, but I just don't know if the week to week is going to benefit them. Maybe it will. I want to be wrong though, because I really like that team.
I actually disagree on that. I don't think they played well at the tournament. I think they were barely getting started. I like the performance I expected out of them. Yeah, they had some good things to show, but I had them pegged to beat Leviathan, and I think they're not gonna be too happy with the result they had. At the same time, it's impossible to argue, against a team that has 5 coaches. Yeah, 5 coaches. It's incredible, and then their team manager traveling with them as well. And like the backing staff that Vitality have puts me in a position where I just feel like they have the talent, and then they have the background staff
Twiston
to manage that talent.
Twiston still had just that like craziness that gives me some excitement, and also just like meeting the team. So I threw Vitality in as well. Like I think that we didn't see the best of some of the other players. Like I think Molsey is going to be one of the best players in the league. I think Twiston is going to be someone that's feared within the server. And although I think I'd probably stick Koi as my number 5 team. Like I think they'll be in the battle with them, because I think like Cold Mentor is a fantastic in-game leader. And again, I think they just got owned by the draw. Like I think having NRG first round for a brand new team with no prep time, that was never going to work.
Yeah.
So I think that obviously there's still a chance that Liquid turn things around. I'd love to believe in the hype of this team. I think everyone else, though, I struggle to see, like, unless Foot go on, like, a run, Heretics need to fix basically everything other than Kellogg's being very good. Carmine Corp, they tried a lot of random shit with no duelists. I wasn't impressed. BBL weren't bad, but again, I think just it has to be so drastic for them to get to a point where they're top 4.
Yeah, and
but
also their
I do
one
think
win
that
was
fourth
Ascent.
spot is up for grabs.
Their one win was Ascent,
Yeah.
which is like, it doesn't really give me a lot. That's why I'm bigger on FUT than I am on BBL, because
That's fair.
I feel like FUT showed us that they actually have, you know, they have bucked the Turkish, you know, Valorant trends of only being good on Ascent and Turkish Jet and blah blah blah, and they gave us a little bit more. That being said, like, you know, I agree with everything you said. I really don't think that, I don't know what's going on with Liquid, man, but they really need to turn it around. And I really don't know if they're going to be a contender for the league. Not if they keep playing like that, dude. That is going to be
challenge.
really hard for me to like be on that side of the fence. But I will be watching every week, anticipating Liquid's success, because I love Redgar. He's a good dude.
Well,
He is a great guy.
now we move on to your region.
Yeah,
JP. I actually
baby.
left Pacific for last because I think Pacific is the hardest one
And the most fun,
So
in my opinion.
I've moved it on to Americas. Now I'll be honest with you, there were a few teams in here that I sort of like mixed in initially, and then I went, actually, that's dumb. I think there's 3 teams for me that should be at the top based off the recent performances.
Yeah.
Now I've gone ahead and ignored how this tournament went, even though it was incredibly close, and I've put NRG at number 1 because I think that I think they're the team with probably the best core in Valorant. I think Artis, it looks like he's fitting in just fine, and if anything, they probably should have beaten Loud but let it slip. So
Well,
that's my number 1.
If I
Mitch,
can
who's your
go
number
next,
1?
I'd just like to quote Tom from earlier on.
You can't replace a team with someone who beat them. And
Loud are my pick for
I
number
can't
1
vote
because they
predicting
beat
forward.
NRG.
I can't
According to
predict
your
forward.
logic, it just wouldn't make sense to look at a result and then imagine some sort of other result. So yeah, Loud make it through because I'm based in reality and continuity. Tom, God damn it!
You
GB?
are basing swapping the final that already happened. I am basing this on what's about to happen. Those are 2 very different things.
Yep.
Listen,
That
it
being
is what it is.
said, I do agree with my Irish brother from another mother, and I will have to
Oh,
go
dear.
with
My
Loud.
man.
I think
He's gonna clip that out of context and just use
I
that.
hope so.
That's on
I
the
hope so.
soundboard.
It's on the soundboard now. I'm going with Loud for pretty much the same reasons. You know, I think like I had a lot of great conversations with Fraud in Brazil, and just talking about how
Some good pizza too.
Oh yeah, I mean the man, they love ordering boxes upon boxes of pizza. But I think that the team has a very, very good structure behind them. I think Fraud, you know, he's doing a lot, and my worry is that he might be doing a little too much, and I would like for him to divvy up some of the task around to, you know, the I guess some of the other people that he's got on his staff, because it I could tell it's very stressful. But he really wanted to come out of this tournament. I think for him, and one of the things he told me was that it was just really important for him to have a strong showing for Loud in Brazil. So he was just putting a lot of added pressure on himself to like get this done.
Yeah.
Dude, you can even see like how integrated he is into all of this. Like, he put out a tweet thanking the Riot staff, and people responded to him saying, "Why didn't you put this in Portuguese?" And the response is like, so he's like in, you know what I mean? Like, he's in the butt cheeks of the Loud system, and I think that they're going to be doing a lot of good work. That being
Just a way
said,
to.
it does not shock me. I know the butt cheeks; it's a good visual. It does not shock me if NRG get first in this league, because I feel like when it comes down to prep work, again, week to week leagues benefit teams like NRG, benefit teams like Loud a lot. So that is your 1 and 2. But for me right now, based on like just sheer firepower and what the team offers as a whole, I gotta go with Loud. They're only gonna get better, and that's scary.
Okay. So I can assume your number 2 is
NRG.
then NRG.
Correct.
NRG,
And Mitch,
yes.
Yours. So I guess we just move straight on to number 3 then, because we've kind of discussed the other 2.
Yeah.
I'm curious, GB, because we both sort of hyped up Leviathan. Have you put them as your 3rd? You said they underperformed, which means you expect better from them. So that's why I'm curious.
See,
We're all about continuity
here's
here.
the thing where it gets hard because of Sentinels, right?
Okay.
I also feel like Sentinels underperformed. So, and underperformed in that, I still think, because Pansy had the best take, I think, on that game, the Fnatic Sentinels game. Her mentality was Fnatic need to win, and they need to win. It can't be close.
Yeah.
It can't be, oh man, it could have gone either way. No, Fnatic needed to win. And that would have justified her and myself and a lot of others feeling like Fnatic were in a strong position to win this tournament. That being said, Fnatic did it. They won. But in the back of my mind, the whole time Pansy's telling me this, I'm like, there's just no way that Sentinels keel over and die like that. Like that, I just can't see that being a possibility. And then that literally happened. So I want to say Sentinels for the third slot.
For clout. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Not for clout, but because I do think that they have a very strong core of players like that can really push them over that line. But I won't lie to you. It's really that one's like the biggest toss up, because also like that's not factoring in, like EG and how that team can potentially grow into a force. Like they have all the.
I also think Furia as well.
Furia looked fucking fantastic. So it's like it's so hard to pick that third slot. All I know is that it's not going to be Cloud9, and it's not going to be and it's not going to be Crew, and like I just know it's not going to be either of those. But
you don't believe in the Cloud9 strategy? I don't understand.
That whole
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But
high IQ.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna go with Sentinels on this one.
Okay.
Not because of clout. Not because of
Mitch, GB's gone for Twitter followers.
Yes.
You're going number 3.
So I'm actually gonna go against myself in a way, and against some of the things I've said. I'm with 100 Thieves here. I think it was a tough game up against Fnatic.
I thought you were gonna pick EG, like genuinely. I thought you were gonna go hard on your brother.
Here's the thing. For me, 100 Thieves at this point with Cryo on there, it's a roster that. It's unfathomable that they don't do well. Yeah, especially with more time now and regular seasonal play. Honestly, I just can't imagine a world where they fail purely because if there's a problem, Nadechuk can just turn around and throw more money at it and fix it. You know what I mean? Like maybe they'll just buy 10s. I don't know. But at the end of the day, this is it's a roster that cannot fail. Can't be allowed to. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes this very interesting because we have all gone for different teams for number 3. I have gone with Leviathan.
Smart.
I think their game versus Na'Vi wasn't close, especially on the second map. But I think Na'Vi were very good, but I also think that Leviathan didn't play to their full potential. I think the addition of someone like Mizzino, the team is only going to get better. I think they are by far the best team coming out of LATAM going into this league. So I think that I think they're going to be a contender for the entire thing. I do think that it's going to be very interesting for that third spot, especially because I think Furia look nasty.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know what Cloud9 are doing. Sentinels, who knows? 100 Thieves. Like, it's going to be a tough one. And to be honest, that could play for any of these spots. Like, genuinely. I think anybody could be top 3 other than, as you said, I don't think Crew are going to do it. We didn't even mention MIBR. I don't have any faith in MIBR. I think they're going to be fighting for bottom 2. I don't want to be mean.
I don't think they're fighting for bottom 2. I actually don't think they're fighting for bottom 2, but I do think that they are not fighting.
If they're not fighting for bottom 2, who else do they beat?
I think they could beat Crew.
That's still bottom 2, GB.
They could pull off a win against Furia if Furia is not careful.
Right.
So that is a possibility.
You're now that's the ultimate.
They could be
Furia looked insane.
They could beat Sentinels. They could beat 100 Thieves.
I know.
They could beat Loud.
They could beat anyone, guys.
I'm really trying.
The America's League's great. I love MIBR.
No,
they gave me a notepad.
I'm not doing it for clout.
I do love
honestly.
my notepad. It is actually very stylish and nice.
He's paid off.
He's
so paid off.
Pretty, No, okay, all right.
Now for today's sponsors, MIBR. Goldenboy, take it away.
Let me go ahead and tell you about the esports team made in Brazil.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's where I'm at with Furia and with MIBR, but mostly I want to pivot this over to Furia. Furia is the biggest wild card of the Americas League by far. I think that they could potentially have this was of all the teams in this tournament outside of Loud, the team that got the closest to beating them before Loud was Furia. That like they were the closest ones, and they didn't just do it in a manner where they looked fucking great. So they are such a wild card team in this whole format, and it actually kind of sucks that like America's gets 3 slots because and not to disparage against EMEA, but I do feel and you guys are going to roast me for this, but it's perfectly fine. I do feel that the Americas region is a more competitive region and EMEA is a bit top heavy. And
damn, that's crazy, bro. I think they had like a 95% chance to get an extra slot though when they were 11-3 up. So, I mean,
they did. I don't know. But no, but like, I mean, am I wrong though? I mean, like, really, Fnatic and Na'Vi are so strong. They're so far and ahead above everyone else, and you are going to have a lot of. I think the 4th spot is going to make EMEA very competitive because they got the 4th slot, which is exciting. If they didn't, then I'd be like, yeah, I mean, going into this, it's probably just going to be like. Fnatic, Na'Vi, and Giant.
Honest, I kind of look at, for me, I look at NRG and Loud as your sort of Fnatic Na'Vi, and then I look at everybody else fighting for that slot. Like, I still think
the Leviathan can also beat either of those teams any given day. Like,
that's the thing. I think if you give teams like Giants a few weeks, I think that they could challenge in the Americas League as well. That's the sort of thing I'm looking at. Like, I think Giants looked really good. They almost beat the team that we're putting as your number 2 team.
Yeah.
So
we're all Giant fanboys here. I think we've all agreed on this.
You've got Giants. I think you've put Koi above Giants, so I don't really know how you can't say the same for Koi.
I just did the same.
So now we've already got 4 teams.
Just shooting at the dark.
Vitality,
shooting at the dark, okay.
I think, Vitality, I think it would take quite a bit to get better. And then if Liquid actually meet their potential, that's now up to 6. But I get what you mean in terms of the actual raw look at it right now, yes. I would say that it's more stacked for fighting for those spots, but I think if you give it a couple of months, I don't think we'll look at it the same way.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is only going to be a net positive for all the regions across the board because they're just going to be exposed to high tier competition all the time. And you would hope that like the result would be that, better teams or the players start to grow and learn and develop and become even better than what we saw at Lock-In. But I'm not trying to say that like EMEA isn't going to be fun to watch because I think I'm more excited for Pacific and EMEA than I am for the Americas League, and I'm hosting the Americas League. So, but I'm excited for them because you have the 4th slot for EMEA, which means it's going to be that split is going to be very exciting to watch. And on Pacific, I mean, who the hell knows what's going to happen over there? So that like I feel like either way, it's going to be great.
Nice segue.
Yeah.
Nice segue because we're gonna I want to get this one out of the way. I don't know if anybody's going to disagree with this. DRX number 1. Yep, DRX number 1.
Yeah, DRX number 1.
Okay, DRX number 1. Moving swiftly on. Number 2.
Oh, shit.
GB, who you got?
Dude.
Who you got? I'm not even talking about DRX. It's boring.
Bro, I don't even...
It's so hard. It's so hard.
Oh, God. Because on one end, I want to be like fucking on the Gen G hype train. You know what I'm saying? But then on the other side of it, Talon, dude. Talon could have easily had been in that spot that DRX was in against Loud.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Talon. I'm going Talon.
Okay. I have also gone Talon. Like, I was really impressed. The only thing that worries me is that, again, with this old Zershicor, with the same for X10, they were always inconsistent as shit. And I am very scared that, okay, they beat MIBR. I really don't rate MIBR. From then onwards, they beat EG, who I still think are going to be one of the like mid to lower teams in NA. And then they lost the DRX. The DRX game was what made me excited about them. But every other game, I'm kind of like, if you're on the other side of the bracket, do you do as well? But I still have them as mine.
I mean, for me, it's a tough one because I can't, betray my brothers as easily as you can. I'm going Paper X in that number 2 slot because I believe, look, across league play, it was a devastating performance on that international stage. But that is the one game that I'm going to confidently answer format. Give them a lower bracket, I think they'll bounce back. I think they came in, they got hit hard, and they were not able to adapt to it. But 1 or 2 extra days there, I think they would have figured it out and come out a completely different team to what we saw game 1.
Okay.
That's
definitely interesting.
Pretty solid analysis on that. I thought you were just going to go straight for the, Benkai's my boo, and I love Benkai, but
No, I'm
was
not
like
as
my
biased
Sentinels
as other
pick.
people. I'm not paid off by MIBR, you know? I might have a few jerseys
Hey
back
guys,
there. Don't worry about
why
it,
don't
eh?
you go ahead and pick up the MIBR notebook today. It's
Use code
$19.99, free
Goldenboy.
delivery.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Okay, so number 3. I feel like GB's the one that, because I'll be honest with you, I've actually got PaperX as my number 3 team. I think that they
sympathy vote.
I don't
right.
think they performed to the best. I think
Virtue
they played
signaling.
against a good
Yep.
squad, but I do think that they'll still make it to Japan, which
Trade.
I hate my own list because that means that there'd be no Japanese players making it to Japan, which makes me sad.
Yeah.
But that is what I've done.
Well, and you wouldn't be wrong for that because I'm kind of in a similar boat. But I am not going to go with PaperX, and that makes me very sad because I love PaperX. Because here's the problem: I just don't know if it's like recency bias or not. You know, like that's the thing that, going back to freaking topic number 1, that kind of annoyed me about this format is it's like, on the one end, you see these players like doing really well, but then you have to take each game as, you know, like within its own like vacuum, if you will, and like at each individual result. But then when you have these teams like PaperX who get eliminated first, and you're like, what more could we have seen? Gen G, another team, what more could we have seen? Right? Sentinels as well. I'm left thinking, damn, what is going to be that third spot? But I gotta go with Gen G. I don't know why, but I felt
That's
so
fair.
confident in Gen G that I think we're gonna have two Korean teams in representing the Pacific region in Tokyo.
Fair. Mitch?
You know, I was thinking about this one, and it's just, Tom, your list does make me sad. You know, I feel like you're saying no Japanese players will make it
Are
there.
you about to not put Talon in?
Are you?
No,
After you
honestly-
said they should have been top 4 over
honestly,
DRX.
Tom,
And then you-
Tom. I don't
your
like
consistency
it. I don't
is
like it when I don't like it. I don't
unfucking
like it when you try to get in my head, man. Because you're seeing it all wrong. You're seeing it all wrong. You're not even close. You're not even close. You're playing darts. Everyone else is at clay pigeon shooting. What's happening?
Oh God, what are you
You're
gonna
not
do?
putting any Japanese players in, my man. You're not putting any Irish players in, any Irish support staff
Oh,
either. You
no.
know damn well I am, baby. GE fighting. Let's go.
Okay,
They're making
okay.
it all the way
He
in that
was
third
paid
spot.
off.
Little
He
clutch
was paid
around.
off.
I didn't want to get it wrong, Ski, at the end of the
The
day.
man is not even Irish. That's the thing that's
Wow.
the most annoying.
Wow. You're
He
about
doesn't
to,
even
you're about
have
to
it as
tell
like
the
a
man.
second region listed
I'm
on
sorry.
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia gets to decide what ethnicity spin is. Does it? A man showed me a passport. He showed me legal documentation. That's all I need to know.
He's a
We
quarter
accept
Irish.
him. He was
Who
stolen.
are you talking
he was,
about here?
Spin, the
their
coach of
assistant
GE.
coach.
He's a
Yeah.
quarter
So you're
Irish. His
just-
name
he
is
is-
Peter
Whoa, whoa,
Bradford.
whoa, 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 whoa.
His name is
listed-
Peter
He's not
Bradford.
even listed as
Whoa, whoa,
Irish
whoa.
on Wikipedia. He's listed as
See,
nationality United Kingdom.
Listen, my brother. We can get into this, but there's what happened was I don't know if
Peter
you've heard of this,
Bradford
but
is the most
the
British
British
name
people
ever.
they took our people and they put them somewhere else, and
Bradford is a place.
he's
in England.
close enough. See, yeah, here's the thing. So they took him to Bradford, his ancestors, and they trapped him there.
I didn't say he
for
lived
fear
there.
of hunger and death. So they've adopted that
That's
British
his
name.
name.
But, yeah, but that's how it worked. You know, you got taken
My
out
guy's
as the
just
savage, put
making
somewhere
things
else.
up right now. This
The
is
point
incredible.
is, Tom, the point is, at the end of the day, you wanted an Irish passport, and we told you no. You're not. You're British. You're not a part of us.
Yeah, I'm
This
almost
man
as
came
Irish as
to
he
my
is.
people, and he said, I'm Irish. Do you accept me back, my brothers? And with open arms,
Yeah, he
we
definitely didn't just want
accepted
the
him in.
passport for travel.
I met him. I've seen proof with my own eyes, legal documentation that he's the first VCT international competitor from Ireland, and that's all I need to know. First
How
Irish
did that
one.
go?
So you are
Runsky wasn't there. Full roster wasn't there. You know, there's a couple things.
okay. You are huffing the hopium, the copium, the whateverium. Like you are. I love GE.
Oh.
I love GE. They are. I think we all got really
Wow.
close with the GE staff, and and some of the players as
Hey,
well.
bro. Yeah, I'm sorry. Is that okay? Is that wound? Bro, I can't believe he just stabbed you in the back like that. I'm sorry.
But-
I'll catch you in a bit, Aaron.
I
Wow,
can't.
that was.
Aaron can even tell you it's going to be a difficult road in Pacific for them. There was a lot of fundamental things that they were struggling with in their game that it was so like, and Vitality should have won that game. We all went with GE because we just wanted to, give love to GE, but like Vitality were
Whoa, speak for yourself, my brother. Speak for yourself. I mean, some of us, before Ronsky wasn't making it there, hell, I think they would have won the event. But without him, who's to tell? Who's to tell how pivotal a member of the 7-man roster he was?
You're not huffing hopium. You are on flat out cocaine. Okay, you are huffing the Mary Jane, dude. There's just no way. You're double splitting drugs. There's just no way that you think that they were gonna win the whole event, man. That's just on Fnatic's side of the bracket.
No. I'm not saying they would have. I'm saying, as Tom always says, it's not fair to look at results and swap them in and out. So I wouldn't know. But if their whole roster was there,
they didn't win a game.
I don't know. Yeah,
they didn't win a game. They did win a round.
They didn't play a game. They didn't play a game with their full roster. So I'll have to wait until I see that to pass any judgment.
Okay.
I don't know about you boys.
But you are passing judgment.
I get
You're
a little.
saying they're getting top 3.
For me, I get a little tired jumping to conclusions. So I'll stay out of this one.
You are jumping to
go
conclusions.
for it.
You're putting them top 3.
You have I have my out-of-pocket Koi pick, and you have your GE pick. The only one here that actually picked with their brain, as usual, is Tom.
Nice.
We'll see when the results roll in, gentlemen. That's all I'll say.
Okay, so sort of to close out this one, obviously we've talked about everything that happened at the tournament. We've talked about what we think is going to happen going forward. I want to look at a few of the rumors. And of course, with rumors, we've got to start with North America, GB.
Oh, man.
North America rumors are fucking wild.
Dude, you telling me, man. It has been weird. So I had heard about the Yay C9 situation into the tournament. So when everyone was like hearing about it and it was leaking, I had already known and I did not believe it. I was like, there's just no way that this is a thing that is happening. And I mean, to my understanding, we still haven't gotten much in the way of clarification. Right, it's still very much,
or even just who's leaving, because Vanity's now rumored as well to be going. Which it's madness.
Throws me off. And so I had heard of the Yay situation, and there are a lot of ways you can kind of approach this, but I think that from the outside looking in, I think it was very much a personality issue. Okay. Not to dive too far into details and stuff like that in spaces where it's not my business at all. It was more or less just seeing them together, seeing them all kind of, just something fell off. It didn't, even when the team was announced, I was like, that's the big thing. That being said, I do really like a few of the cores, of that team, right? Like, guys like Leaf had a pretty solid tournament.
Him and Zeppo.
Yeah. Zeppo was disgusting, I think there was obviously a lot of things to be very excited about there. Zelsis had his moments as well, but I just couldn't see Yay as a player gelling with those guys. If he couldn't gel with energy.
I think his Sage, he was playing Sage on Pearl. And I was like, there was just a few things that kept catching me off, like him trying to wall up. I think it was on the B site. He would like try and wall up and just kept fucking the jump up. And I was like, this guy just doesn't look like he should be playing Sage. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, this is your sort of like, not a one trick, but even his jet in the past was insane. So I was just like, I don't get why you're not utilizing that. Like, it almost seems like they're trying to fit him into the team as they should, but it just didn't seem like it really fit for him.
Yeah, and was it meant to be maybe that Yay didn't want the pressure of being like the superstar opper? Like, that also could have been the possibility, and they wanted to alleviate some of that pressure off of him. But honestly, it would not shock me, and could be way off base here, but it would not shock me if C9 signed Yay without actually talking to the team and talking to them and being like, what is it that you guys need? Because that happens a lot, more often than people would like to admit publicly, because, you never want to be like, oh yeah, the suits are the ones that made the decisions. But look in the history of esports and you see a lot of decisions that were made that look kind of weird and don't make a lot of sense, and then you'll follow the money trail, you know what I mean? And I think that was kind of the situation with Yay, where C9 just wanted to make a big splash and they would sign, a superstar player like Yay. but I don't know.
And it makes sense, to be honest. If you're a team owner, that opportunity presents itself split second. And I think a good example, but with less time constraints on it, is tens. A bunch of teams have had the simple solution of let's just buy tens, and it's going to be, easy stonks for us when we go to games because we got tens. And then they talk to the players, and the players are like, we like tens, but that would kind of fuck up our whole system here. Like, that's not the solution. That's not what we're looking for right now. And I think that's possibly what happened here. Yeah, I think it's very easy to imagine a world where C9 get an opportunity. It's going to be other orgs involved and interested. Ye's going to want a team pretty quickly, and they're like, fuck it, we got the money, let's sign him, and turn to the boys and go, fuck it, he's Ye, deal with it. You're going to get over it. You're going to make it work. It will work. And the other thing that I thought was, like, I imagine they went in. I imagine there's a world at least where they went in, and I've heard of many teams before, and I think it's a terrible idea, but to give teams a definitive, if you don't make top 8, this is fucked, or we're going to drop this guy, or whatever it is. We're going to make changes if this goal is not obtained. Puts way more pressure on the players, but I think there's a reasonable world where C9 as an org look at those results and go, I imagine we're paying Ye a decent amount of money, and the value clearly wasn't there in the opening game. Do we want to risk however many months we're going to sign him in for and lock him in for?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's weird too, because that Pearl game, like, C9 won, the against DRX, and Ye would not be like the highest performer. Was that more or less like just DRX getting figured out? Like, I mean, they, if I recall, like, it was like some crazy ass result on the way of C9. But then, and I'm pulling up the stats right now. So yeah, it was actually 13-3 on Pearl, and then Haven 13-7 for DRX. But then you look at the stats, and it's like, oh wait, Ye's actually kind of playing all right. Like, he played really well in Haven, and then he carried his weight on, even though they got clapped. He was the top performer, and not really much to pull away from that. But I don't know. Like, everyone was like so big on this team coming into this event. Something just never really clicked for me, and I wasn't sure what it was. And now seeing everything implode kind of makes sense now. It just was weird. So,
I mean, the writing was on the wall from game 2. I think, did they play it in game 1? I'll have to go and check, versus Paper X. No, okay. So, like, the writing was on the wall right away when we saw that DRX opening game on Pearl, and Ye is sitting on a Sage. I was so confused. I was just flabbergasted by that decision. And then you saw the game, and it's like, it wasn't doing terrible. It wasn't a bad game by any means, but I was watching it just thinking, I think this is the worst Ye's like ever looked. Now, look, we're coming out of chamber meta. He wasn't playing a chamber even on that map, so never mind the nerfs. He's in a new role, yada yada. It all makes sense, but it was just something counterintuitive about what we were watching and round around. Even though the other strange thing I'll say is they didn't have a lot of time. If I imagine this roster with more time, with the results of taking down Paper X and going very close with DRX, who then had a good tournament run, I don't know. That's it's just so weird that there's any roster changes with the Ye stuff in there. Fair enough, but Vanity as well. Then what the hell is happening? Like, you're completely rebuilding after.
It wasn't performance
success.
It wasn't performance.
There's it.
It's not a performance issue. There was, because they could have easily have been in the position that DRX was in. I think, and also too, like, lest we forget, MCE has always been known as like more of an experimental coach, right? Where, like, that was one of the reasons why the guard had so much success early on, right? Was because he was so he would always think about all these like nerdy things that they can like get away with in game, and oftentimes it worked. It really did work to their benefit. Whereas I just don't think you're going to be able to get away with that kind of stuff against DRX. It
could be here that because the guard was such a young team, like, MCE's basically like, his word was gospel, I would assume. Like, I'm telling you to do this, you do it. Whereas if you're now in this team, I wonder if that could be the reason for the changes, because you're coming in with players who, well, let's put it this way. If I'm told I'm the best player in the world, you play my way. Like,
Ye's not
I don't know if Ye's like that.
He's not that guy.
He's not that guy. He's never been that guy.
He's like Scream.
Yeah.
But would he be if things weren't working? That's the question, because in Valorant, most of the time things were working, at least for him. Like, even in the teams he was in before, he still played well. He still looked good until he was picked up. And then in Optic, they never had bad times.
Yeah.
Ever. They qualified for every event, and they got, like, what, like top 4?
Yeah, I never hear of Ye being difficult to work with, or wanting to do it his way. I've never heard that said to me from all the conversation I've had with players in the Americas region and coaches as well. I genuinely just think it was that, similarly to perhaps the situations he had with NRG Optic, which was like, oh, I don't necessarily get along with the guys like as well, but like, they're cool, but like he very much was very isolated at times. You kind of felt it, even though I could see like the team always try and include him in, especially, like on stage and in the interviews and stuff like that. But we never know like what really goes, on behind the scenes. But that being said, I could just look at the players that are on the C9 roster and just be like, can't really see how they're like, something goes wrong. And I could totally see that roster kind of going south because the personalities in the team are so strong. So I think that it was more of a personality issue that led to this. And also them releasing Ye as fast as they did tells me that C9 didn't want to cover his salary, which when you kind of look at all the moves that C9 is making as an organization right now, it kind of clicks. It makes sense, right? Like they most recently just announced that that Twitch will be handling all the sales for Cloud9 moving forward, which smart play, by the way, from a business perspective, incredibly smart play. But now that means that what that told me is they don't have the staff to go out there and get sponsorship opportunities from endemics and non-endemics. They need a third party to do that, which tells me that perhaps there's some rough waters ahead for C9 as an organization. Kind of makes sense. They recently released the entirety of their Halo Infinite roster to Space Station Gaming. They traded them all to Space Station Gaming, but it wasn't even like a trade. They just ceased their agreement and then let the team just explore an option with SSG.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that and to my knowledge, based on what everyone, and I know this is the Valorant podcast, but this kind of connects. What everyone was telling me outside, because I'm way more embedded in Halo right now than I am in Valorant, was that there was going to be no C9 Halo team for the next season. And when you look at the roster that they randomly picked up, that kind of checks out, because they ended up picking up guys who, good players, don't get me wrong, but definitely players that were teetering in the 8 to 16 range rather than competing in the top 3 like old C9 was. Like old C9 literally finished every Halo major event in top 2. So
so it's almost like they're taking a gamble. They're wanting to keep their foot in rather than
skin money. They have skins in the game.
They don't.
I think that they thought that they could just like not have a roster and then just sell the skins in the game and then make money off of the skins and not have to pay a roster. So instead they're just going around and paying a roster, the bare minimum in order to keep their skins in the game based on the agreements with 343, because every single team owner that I spoke to in the HCS told me C9 will not have a Halo team next season. And then they announced their Halo roster with 3 people. Halo roster's 4 people. They announced with 3 people. So that's also a problem. And I think one of those people was a coach. So, even more of an issue. So I think that there might be some money issues going on over at Cloud9. And they probably did not want it. So they just saw like an opening and an opportunity to just like let Ye's contract go. That's what I think. But because no one was going to pay.
He would have still been. He definitely would have still been on a probation period where either one of them could turn around and go, "No, I'm good." Yeah. Like it's become very, very, very standard. Even in EMEA and in North America, I know players' contracts are so much better in general. But EMEA even is pretty standard that if you're signing up to a team, you'll have. I don't know of many that are less than 3 months, where either the team could just turn around or the player can turn around and go, this isn't fucking working. Now, obviously, it's different if you're bought from somewhere. There might be an associated buyout. There's like an ability to bench yourself for a set minimum of time and then become a free agent. And it's a very complicated world, but I think that they definitely had the knowledge going into this event that there was an open door there. I have to wonder, Ye had to have agreed with it is the key thing, as did C9 obviously, but we've got a million reasons why C9 agreed. Where's Ye going?
Literally tweeting out that he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And again, if you know Ye and you've had a conversation
Maybe he didn't have
with
to
Ye,
agree.
he is very upfront. He just kind of like speaks the way he wants to speak. He's not one of those people that like plays the trolley game online and does, like he doesn't do that stuff. So
because it's hard to imagine unless he literally has a team that he's going to fall into in the next week or two. Like
Bleed.
there's
$1 million contract. It's back on the table.
back in. They're like $1.5 million. We heard it hasn't worked out. Huh? Can we tempt you
and
now?
we're back again. You want to play
I
for
just-
Bleed? You could be Bleed Ye.
I just like Ye cannot go from being the best player in the world to it can't be another Kellogg story of just phenomenal international player and now he's not in the main circuit. There's no way it happens. Like someone has to. But
I don't know if you
it's not
can
even
quite
buy
make
this
the
man there, is
comparison
it?
of Ye to Kellogg's.
Well, no,
but I see
for
what you were going
MEA
for.
fans, yeah, Kellogg said he did well internationally. Everything was looking good. Then his team dropped him. He ended up in tier 3 on a team that was going like 1-8 or something. It was
He was
just,
the only player on Heritage.
It was
for a
fucking
bit.
atrocious. It was
Yeah.
so bad. The guy
Right.
was struggling. He was drowning.
Before we go further, because I feel like now we're just speculating Ye's future, there's a few other people I want to bring up. So one of the other rumors is that Crew are looking to bring back the prodigal son of Kesnet, who is currently on the bench of Leviathan, and they might get rid of Zand, or Zhanji, as I think it's said, instead. So I actually think that for them, that would mean building their whole team around Kesnet. I think that's one of the things with Kesnet is a lot of the time he's going to be your focal point. But honestly, after seeing them play in at the last tournament, fucking do it, man. Bring that guy back. Let him be your centerpiece.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be a dick, but I don't think they're winning a game. Maybe they beat MIBR. Maybe they, if GB is right and Fury are as bad as he thinks
No,
they're going to be.
I don't think they're bad.
Maybe they manage. But he said something like that. You can go back and watch.
As GB said earlier, Fury will be trash, but I'm not sure I agree with that. But
Have you
his
heard
words.
about MIBR? There you go.
Keep the
But
Brazilians
that's the
off your
thing. I
back.
think like they need something because some of the players like they seem all right, but like they need a Kesnet. They need a superstar. He's not. It doesn't seem like he's involved in Leviathan's plans. If anything, it almost seems like they bought him just to be like, you can't use this guy anymore.
You want him back?
But
Money.
I think do it. Like Aguero, get the checkbook out. We know you've got the paper.
It does
do it.
make me wonder, if you take out Jan, there's going to be some role shifts on the team, but I think they're worth making.
Yes.
And I think someone like, and even looking at someone like Nags right now, I think he's going to take a back seat, allow for more flexible agent selects out of the roster. So it seems like a logical choice. Again, though, I don't think Jan is a particularly terrible player. So I wouldn't want to see him.
Good player.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see him depart the tier 1 scene. I think he's definitely a good prospect to be picked up by another.
I also wonder if it's a language thing. Because I know that their roster will be a mix, right, of
it's like Chilean,
both Spanish and Portuguese.
Yeah.
So maybe it's that. Maybe they want to bring in someone who speaks Spanish.
But
That's just pure speculation.
They still have
but-
a Shetty though, right? Like he's still Brazilian.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing
Some of
is
the
though
hills.
is that like having learned and was speaking Portuguese and stuff, like Spanish speakers can understand Portuguese. So like it's not as 1-to-1 obviously, and it does go the other way too, but I think like I know that Portuguese speakers can definitely understand Spanish. So
Okay.
I think that there is at the very least a little bit of a compatibility option there for them. Depends
Okay.
too as well, like how much effort's being put into that. But I would have to imagine that the majority of their comms are going to be in Spanish with a mixture of Portuguese kind of thrown in there, depending if like the word calls for it, like, or if the call out is specific and makes sense, to say it in Portuguese. But yeah, I agree with you on the Kesnet thing. I think you just kind of got to bust out the checkbook and then figure out where to slot him in, and then then I think you have
no, you figure out where to slot everyone else in.
That's true. That's true.
put that man on a raise, a jet,
That's true,
whatever
that's
he
true.
needs.
It just makes me wonder why he's sitting on the bench for Leviathan. Like, what was the reasoning?
Well, the thing was, it seemed like they were going for either him or Taco. That's what the rumors were. At least it was like a choice between the two. And I think Taco just fits more in their system. Like, I think that Kesnet is someone who needs to be more of that superstar, whereas Taco, he can be a superstar, and he was in some of the maps. Like I think it was the defensive side of Pearl, maybe. He was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But the fact is, he can be that player that you send him first, and everyone else can be the star behind him. And I think that for their team has more value, because let's be real, when it comes to Leviathan, they don't really need a superstar. They were building themselves almost like the old Loud, where everybody is a solid player and they can win off anyone. Even like King had some unbelievable performances on every single agent. So I don't think they need a Kesnet, whereas I think Crew really, really need a Kesnet.
Yeah, I agree with that. I hope that they make that change. And if they do decide to do it, then I have a lot more faith in Crew being a competitive team in the region. And then MIBR is in real trouble. Because I am, jokes aside, very concerned about how that team plays out. So yeah, that would be good. And and I think also too, like we're gonna start to see some real purposeful trades and pickups starting to happen leading into the league, because it's a marathon. It's a marathon, and you need people who can run the marathon. And a lot of players are going to learn real quickly that they can't.
I mean, like we already had Lakia back in the day, right? Where we had these roster moves that were specifically targeted as well. Like, I'm going to pick this guy up. What role is he going to play? You think he's going to play? No. We just don't want to play against him.
He's going to play that you're not playing.
He's going to play fan in the stands. That's his role this season. He's really into it. He's method acting. Hasn't played a single scrim.
It's like he's going to play bind. It's like, what do you mean bind?
Just bind.
No, just bind.
Yeah.
And then when we don't win bind, bye, Lakia.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Most expensive, just single map player. But yeah, I think then coming into the league as well, it's going to get crazy for some of the teams that have the bigger bankrolls. But honestly, a year ago, I would have said that's North America is just going to be mayhem. But with that FTX, maybe, I think the MEA bankrolls are going to start to match up soon.
Yep. It's going to be nuts.
So one of the like official roster moves, and I kind of want to lean to GB again, because you mentioned Gen G. You mentioned them as a team you have a lot of faith in. They already made a change, an official change as well. Like, this isn't just rumors. They've actually announced that they've got a couple of players joining, and Secret has gone. Now, I'll admit, I don't think Secret had like an amazing tournament or anything, but I have to feel like there's something I've missed, because removing Secret after you just lose to Loud, who got to the final, that seems really excessive.
Yeah. It makes me think that they were probably thinking about this move a while ago, and then they maybe just had an opportunity to nail, was it Sylvan and Goddead, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it was just like, hey, we have an opportunity to get these guys. Let's just do it now. Might as well rip the Band-Aid. That's how it felt like to me, because Secret wasn't like, Secret was fine, like there was nothing particularly like egregious or terrible, like note. Like, no, he played his role, right? He played his initiator role. He did the thing he needed to do. He set the teams up for some of the plays that they needed, and then boom, that was it. But I think that if Gen G are making this pickup, and given how Gen G have been, how they played and how we think they are going to play going into the Pacific League, I think that this is going to be a positive for them in the long term.
Okay.
I think I'm feeling pretty hyped up about it, and I think this is going to be a good pickup for them.
Yeah, it's interesting, for Secret. This is a guy that was what the old Onslayers roster had Goddead, which is what used to
please
be
don't, please. No,
TS
I can't
Echo.
go through this again.
Secret's like the one boy. He has just been with them
You're gonna bring up your
on
dog shit
Desperados.
graphic again.
Yeah, let's get the graphic up. They were like, the funny thing about Secret, he was on Desperado. He got left by these boys, and then they brought him up for these games because they had some like rocky results on Gen G or on Onslayers before. They dropped Goddead because of bad results, I think. on the Gen G. They've picked up Secret for 3 games. They brought him back. They said, hey, boy, we finally got that extra slot. We told you we'd come back for you, baby. Come on. 3 games will bring you to Brazil. Actually, we're going to bring GodDead back, bro. Sorry, it's just not worked out.
Sorry,
yeah,
bro.
Yeah, unlucky. Yeah, we lost to like a pretty shit team. Loud. I don't know. Just get out of here.
Also, too, wasn't GodDead in a team? He was on Slayers with 3 players from Gen G, right?
Yeah, every single one of these players has played with every single other one of these players at least like 2 or 3 times. You could actually write a fucking drama about their lives.
Ridiculous.
This was those guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
This is why I was
the graphic.
referencing.
I thought you were
And
talking
now it's
about
gotten worse.
I thought you were talking about like a paint
No.
graphic, but no. Instead, this is like a fever dream graphic that I was watching.
And now it's gotten so much worse now because you've got GodDead coming back, who had already been on the Onslayers roster. He'd played on F4Q with some of the boys before Sylvan. Honestly, I just want to do a timeline of all of their lives. I want to see, like, because it makes me think, like, you've been removed by these guys, replaced by them, left on rosters, brought back, now kicked out again. Did they love each other or hate each other? I don't know. I have no idea.
It really
there's a
is
world where
saga.
they're, like, out for each other's throats, and there's another world where they're all just pals
just
going, oh, we
hanging
get to
out,
play
bro.
together again. Let's go play some video games.
They're just meeting downtown, going to get some food, with the homies.
At the arcade, chilling.
Yeah, I very fascinating situation, but I think that it does speak more toward. Well, also I wonder then who is going to be the starter? Is it going to be GodDead or is it going to be Sylvan?
Your guess is as good as mine.
I think the rumor was Sylvan, but I don't know how much truth that has
'Cause
in
it
it.
feels like they're leaning-
looking at the VRR.
It feels like they're leaning more into Sylvan than they are into GodDead. Like the announcement, I think even felt more like it was it was like welcome Sylvan and GodDead, like I shouldn't probably look too far into that, but yeah, I don't know. It's a weird situation, but I mean, even when you look at what the reaction online has been, a lot of people are very much on the side of Sylvan's a great pickup for them, and GodDead's like kind of just vibing, So maybe GodDead's just that reliable player, gets along with everyone incredibly well, can also just be a big help to the coaching staff, and then Sylvan's the guy that they're trying to build with. So maybe that's it.
He's the guy they played with before GodDead, that is. They played with GodDead a lot before, but Sylvan's kind of new coming around.
Don't know much about him, if I'm being honest.
He used to be a pretty, I'm going to say just a bad Jet. He wasn't great back in the old days of Korea, but now he's playing controller.
Soldam or someone else?
No. Hold on. Let's not besmirch the man's name. No,
I
he
also
was
love
just
that he
wasn't really doing too well.
He came from a team called World Game Star, which
Game Star.
Great because I
World
immediately think of
Star.
World Star, dude. I think of World Star immediately. Oh man.
I just remember back when he was on ZF Gaming, I saw him I think once because everyone I say paper thin and Achilleos. I'd just been to the bar with them. They wouldn't shut up about Korean Jets, how it's going to change the game. So I just started looking through some of the games, and then I just saw I remember seeing Sylvan and just being like, no, he's not that great. And so when they said they were picking him up, I thought bad decision, but he's shifted to a controller now, so completely different challenge for him there. I think
what I think that was the most fascinating thing about where we are right now in Valorant, in that when I was talking to Fraud about what they decided to do with Kawenzine and Tombizz, they approached it in a manner where they're like, well, you know what? Let's just get 2 god tier duelist players, like young duelist players, and then teach them how to play these roles.
Well, that was Tombizz for sure.
Yeah.
Because like Kawenzine was sort of like in the role that they've got him playing. So
yeah, it was mostly Tombizz.
Like,
it was mostly Tombizz.
Definitely, he was just a fucking Jet player.
Yeah, they were like, let's just get a guy with great aim who we know can be reliable in a 1v1, but then train him how to play, like an Astro or an off role, and then he becomes that role.
Yeah.
But it also it requires the player being bought in to that idea too, because it's very easy for a player to just be in a situation where like, if I was freaking Jet here, I would have easily been able to, get this clutch. But then you were seeing Tombizz, there were a few plays where he was doing like quick Astra Star placements into like an immediate push. Like he would like go into Astra form, drop a star, swing the corner, pop the stun. Like he was doing all this like wild stuff that I thought was actually like pretty sick. So yeah, I think we're going to start to see that more and more.
This ties in nicely because our last rumor, I don't know if you've seen too much about this, GB, but SG something was rumored to be going to PaperX.
No.
And this guy has the best stats. Like, basically, if you on the right week were to just sort the stats on any page by number 1, this is the kid you'll find. This is a guy who, in a best of 5, dropped 136 kills, while the second guy had 94, plus 62. I think the game before... and lost, by the way. And lost. The game before, he got 120 kills, and he's been rumored to go to PaperX. Now, he is someone who... I think mostly you're going off the stats. Like, he has been an insane sort of, like, Reyna, Jet player, someone with loads of raw individual skill. But, well, I know Mitch has looked at this as well. The question I have, Mitch, is, like, are they going to move someone else in the team so he can play, or are they just going to try and get him to play something else? Because either way, I think if he does end up joining, that's going to be a super weird dynamic.
Yeah, it really... I've never been a fan of taking players who are in a promising position and putting them on a bench as 6th man. I think it just creates a really weird environment on most teams that's very difficult to manage, I would say, to even understand the effect it's having on players, with the idea of like, this guy might be here to take your job. And even if that's not the environment you build, it's still the environment some of them live in their heads, right?
Who would he take over the spot of?
But we don't know. The rumor is, I think their 6th player is a streamer, so he might just be coming in as a 6th. Like, that was something that PaperX had, that I don't think their 6th man was ever going to play a game.
Oh, is that
it was just someone that was there for content?
Cigarettes?
So I don't know. I don't remember. But
if I'm not mistaken, there is a rule which states that your coach cannot be your stand-in player, and for that reason, some teams actually have a different coach listed as their coach, and that coach has to be the one sitting on the stage, right? But so that your assistant coach, in some cases, who is actually your head coach behind the scenes but not on match days, can then be your stand-in, because maybe your actual assistant coach is like gold and you're not going to want to field them instead of Durka or something like that. So it's I'm not saying that Mini is gold. I'm sorry, Mini, if that came off as directed at you in any way. It
Mini
wasn't.
would smoke you.
He would ruin me.
You.
Listen, after what happened last time I was against Boser, I'm good. I don't need to step on a server with anyone from Fnatic anymore. But
he got knifed.
Yeah, I know. I got knifed.
There's a video.
I got knifed.
It's on Boaster's YouTube
clipped.
channel.
Boaster tweeted it. Fnatic tweeted it, and I'm pretty sure Fnatic replied to me one day just out of the blue with it as well.
Boaster made a
so
YouTube video on how to like fool someone with Astra, and the person he did it
on
to
release.
was Mitch.
Yeah, he was like, "Look, here's
Like,
all the
he
cool
fake
stuff we can do."
smoked the wrap round behind
so this
him.
fucking idiot thinks
amazing.
he can drone now. Look at him. Look, he thinks, he's not here. Silly man. Yeah, it's traumatic. So I'll steer clear of that. But yeah, there's a really weird possibility in my head that PaperX make changes. The results weren't great. I know they weren't happy with them. It's got a sting going home that early as well, and it was something that was surreal for everybody at the event, not having PaperX around after a couple of days.
Yeah,
it's just unheard of. You're just so used to running into them, saying hi to Bankai, wondering what his next walkout is going to be, and all of that dissipated. So wondering about
his slug walkout was so good.
Was
I don't know what
I
was
thought
next.
it was so great. I was like really into it, and I just thought, I'm glad that they let him do this, because, you know, I love our production crew. They're great, but sometimes when it comes to being flexible in the moment, or something going against what the original vision was, it could sometimes be a little difficult to get that across the finish line. Yeah. But the fact that they let him go out there as a slug and just do the thing, and then everyone passed him. Actually,
yeah, they had to walk around.
It was money. That was so
I think
funny.
One of them pretended to squash him, I'm pretty sure, like kind of not actually kicked him, but fake kicked him and stuff.
Yeah.
It was it was good fun. But that's the thing. I can't imagine anybody on that team that I want to see removed. I don't think anybody on that team has proven to me or has been given a fair enough shot that I would state they're not like, reliably tier 1.
But like
that's the trouble.
They struggled, man. And part of me thinks that like, maybe
format,
the format. You know what? I'm gonna hold out. I'm not gonna hold out judgment, or I'm not gonna judge anything. PaperX, I will say they underperformed, plain and simple, like we have already pointed out. But I'm not going to be one of those people who's like, we need changes, because that is like that is the wrong
Get the
way to do it.
pitchfork.
That is the wrong way to do it. That is not how you build a long-term sustainable roster. You don't build a team by freaking swapping people out on a whim because of random reasons, you know. And I know this sounds like a dig at Cloud9, but it's not really, because
I was about to say.
I think that there was legitimate reasons with Cloud9, and I think it's reasons that they're not being upfront about. But I also think that it was a bit of a haphazard decision as well. It was a bit out of the blue. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to call for changes for PaperX quite yet. So I'm gonna say SG something comes in. Is it SG something? I've never heard of him before. So I was kind of.
I think it's just something.
Oh, it's
I
just
think
something?
SG was the team he was on.
I think he will be coming in as a sub. Potentially.
Yeah, it's all of this
Could
is
be.
rumors anyway, so it's not necessarily going to come to fruition. But statistically, he's off the charts. He's quite fun to talk about. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, it's been a long episode. I wanna just finish with some thoughts on Gekko, because I know that all of us have played the agent, like had a little bit of time to see all the abilities. I think for me especially, it was something that really surprised me, because I'd like look at all the other agents in the game, and this completely breaks any mold that was created prior. So I'm gonna start with Mitch. What did you think of Gekko? Did you enjoy it? Is there anything you'd change, or are you just looking forward to seeing it?
I didn't play him at all, so I was watching
You didn't
people.
play him
and
at all?
No. Other than on a custom server,
You're friendlier than I am. I played him in like game 2.
No, I was just experimenting, mainly getting addicted to Yoru, to be honest. But the thing about Gekko, he's really bloody annoying to play against at the start. I think it's the same as a lot of things. Like, I remember when the Reyna Lear came out at first, everybody was like, it's so broken, bro. You gotta aim up. And then you realize it's like 1 second of aim labs, and then you got to shoot him in the head. It's not that hard. If anything, maybe it even warms you up, flicking up to the eye and then back down. But it's really panned out to not be that big of a deal. Obviously, we'll have patches and everything like that, but I think Gekko maybe needs them. It feels like it's way too punishing when his utility comes around that corner. Like, I have to shoot that with the reactions of a Wild West dueler, or I'm going down. Like, I'm getting gooped and I can't see a damn thing. So it's pretty damn annoying. And the amount of space he can clear, like, have you seen B-site takes? Some of the stuff that Vlad's been putting up, and like Vladcore, the executes that you can do with him on his own. It's like entire site clear, maybe you kill someone, you're definitely gooping them up. It's impossible to hold now. Like, if you're a Cypher player on your own,
I think the
good
mosh
luck.
pit as well, like that being able to be one of the only abilities that can break a lockdown through walls as well.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
yeah.
meant to be able to, like, I had a clip where I killed someone through a wall on bind by accident. I landed a molly on sight on the A site, and it killed someone who was in lamps. I don't think that's meant to happen.
We can roll the clip.
Think that might come
Roll
out.
the clip, Tobin. Roll the clip.
I'll give it to you. I'll give you the clip, Tobin. It is, yeah, it's mind numbing. So I definitely think there's one or two things that are a bit broken. I will say, however, I don't know if you guys agree with this. The ult is good in theory, but in practice, very mid. Like, considering it's 7 orbs, you can shoot it and break it quite easily. And a KO knife, if you are hit, it will just disappear.
Yeah.
The ult's just gone. Like, sure, you can pick it back up again, but that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah. I think that I like that the ult is kind of not the best. I know that sounds weird to say, but because the rest of the kit is so strong that, like, if his ult was equally as powerful, then I think Gekko just would have been broken beyond belief. So I don't know.
I kind of still think it is strong, though. Like, if you add in a neon or something, like if you have a composition specifically bred to punish some of that space taking, because even then add in the flash and everything as well, or the goop.
I think it can be strong, but it's not OP, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not the sort of thing you're going to play on your own in a solo queue game and become a god all of a sudden. It's not Chamber. But a competitive play, like, put this in the hands of someone like a Fnatic, I think it's fucking terrifying.
You need utility to, like, protect it, I think, and just the fact that it's more info gathering. There's still like things that you get from it. This is gonna sound weird to say, but it kind of just feels like a better version of a Phoenix ult, where, like, you know, even though Phoenix obviously has a gun and can actually, like, get kills and stuff, but it just like populates something that then you just kind of blindly push into sight with, and then either you get a little bit of information, or it gets blown up. And that's
I also
kind of
think
what happens with
like
Phoenix Ult all
if
the
you
time.
combine that with a Rolling Thunder or a Nightfall, it is fucking terrifying. Like someone can't shoot it anymore. You're just detained for 5 seconds, and it's not like a lockdown where look, there's a little time ticking. It's like bang, you're detained.
Yeah, and is it a cone effect detain?
That's the terrifying aspect.
Is it detain in a cone?
It can get multiple people. Yeah, if you're stood beside, I think it's an AOE when it explodes.
Oh, it's an AOE.
Let's say there was a rush.
I believe so.
If there was a rush, you could hit the whole team.
Yeah, you could catch all 5.
Yeah, I think it. Again, to your point, it's an ultimate ability that I think you pop it by yourself in a round. You're trying to push Ascent B, and you decide from a market to like pop it, and then you're not going to get shit out of that. It's going to get blown up. Or even going from main, it's going to get exploded. But if you put some support behind it, that thing could be, because then you turn a a breach ult into like kind of a freaking killjoy ult. Like you get like the best of both worlds,
and an instant one at that, an instant killjoy ult, not one where you have to wait.
Also, imagine a world where you do pop lockdown, and then you have another Gekko on the other side, pop his ult, and then the Gekko kind of comes around the flank where the players are usually going to run away from.
Yeah, that would
and then
be
you're
good.
putting pressure from both angles. Like there's really a lot of cool things you could do with that particular ult, but it is going to require coordination. But I do think Gekko's going to get insta played. I think he's like too good to not get played. He's literally got Sky's ability to scout, except he also does a cone based stun. Is it right? Or something to that effect, or a concuss? I think he does with a wingman.
Oh, the wingman.
Yeah, with wingman, and you can also plant spike with it. Then the flash.
And it's cute as fuck.
Yeah. Then the Molly. The Molly's massive, dude. That thing is huge.
The Molly is strong. Yeah.
He's gonna get instant play. I think it's
and
too good.
That's the thing. Like Molly with a stun, Molly with it. It's basically like you could channel this with a Fade, an Astra, a Breach. Like there's so many. That's the thing where I think this agent becomes very, very strong. Is if you have a team played in combination with it, it's amazing. As Mitch said, if you're trying to solo it, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as effective, but obviously we're talking about the competitive side of things. I also think clutch potential as well, like the ult in a clutch is going to be insane.
The nade in a clutch post plan.
The wingman as well is just going to be unbelievable, like being able to tap the spike and stuff is going to be really strong. I don't think that ability on its own is going to be as strong, but in those late round scenarios, and as said, combined with other stuff, that'll be pretty cool. Like you could do a full execute where he runs in and plant, and then you have a post plant. That's nuts.
Yeah.
And throw a cove in it, and as well, all of a sudden they can't shoot him, and certainly nowhere near as easily.
Yeah.
And it's really tough. Like the new era of Valorant. If you think about a roster, and I'm not putting a comp together for a specific map here, but just think about defending a site versus an execute that's coming in from your little bro coming to plant. You have a harbor, and then any form of initiation on the back of that. Maybe even add in, like we were talking about, a Neon taking the space on the back of Gekko's utility. It's a very difficult site to hold.
What I just thought of, I think that there's going to be, this year could be the first year where we see a composition that does not involve the original lineup of Valorant characters that they just came out with.
You could be right.
I think we're going to get it this year, because you mentioned that, and I was like, any initiation? Okay, you could probably do Sky. You could probably do KO. Okay, cool. You're cool with that. I think Killjoy still sees a lot of play here, right? So, and then, Gekko, and you could also combine that with Astra, and you can also add a Neon. And like you really don't need to run the core characters from like the Brimstone, the Jet, the Omen. Like there are so many options now. It is actually quite exciting.
I do think like a Brimmy Gekko post plant
would be
like just filth.
Cheese.
Like just utter filth.
Cheese, bro.
I see. That's the thing. That's the one thing I'm so excited about with Fnatic is just I know that Boaster is going to come up with the most bullshit post plant. They will get to the point where someone's like, "Yeah, we gotta run KO just because fuck this."
Yeah,
like just fuck this. Like we gotta run it just so we can like pop null command every once in a while and just deny all this bullshit.
Does he get hard countered though, Gekko, by anyone outside of KO?
I don't think so.
No, I would say that one of the things that I was actually like, obviously, I think it's the same with a lot of other abilities, but like the fact that you can send in the wingman to plant and none of Killjoy's utility reacts, that to me is strong.
Nuts.
Like none of it, like the turret, but it's like people were pointing out, it's like, well, the turret doesn't react to a Skydog or the turret doesn't react to a Boombot, so why the fuck would it react to a wingman? It's like, but they can't plant the spike, so you could have like an off-site Killjoy setup where you have the turret basically looking for contact and you're going to swing in, and instead wingman just walks in, plant spike, you have a post plant, and the Killjoy setup, you're not going to activate your mollies because you're not even going to know he's there.
You know, it's making me realize that the next thing that's going to come, I feel like, will be Valorant's sort of take on Warden. I don't know if you guys know him from Siege, but it was a really interesting addition that came in later on.
Yeah.
He has sunglasses. That's his ability. And basically he like, you pop your, imagine it as a jet dash. I think it would be very similar. You activate it and it has a certain window that it's on for. It just wouldn't have like a close to it. And those glasses stop you from getting flashed.
Oh, so you can see through smokes, and that's okay. Yeah.
So like it's very now the seeing through smokes I think wouldn't work here because it would be too strong. You like
that would be busted
because the smokes are not used in the same way as Siege, but certainly the like flashes and like maybe the goop just slides off the glasses. I think round to round will be a little much, but I mean if it's a 5-second window, you would have to anticipate that flash perfectly. You know, you'd have to have a very good idea when they're going to push. So it almost doesn't seem that bad if it was like at 5 seconds every round I can pop it and I'm immune to flashes. Be hilarious to see the the fallout in the community if that came through. But he came in at, I would say, probably about now when things start to get really confusing. Those abilities that sort of like KO, that they interrupt your abilities as opposed to adding anything new themselves.
The content killer, as all the influencers.
The content killers, exactly.
I just think the reason why I'm really excited about Valorant for the future, and I know, like, you know, the rumors of Counter-Strike 2 on the horizon or CS:GO 2 or whatever, and that's also that's like
Source 2,
you know, or Source 2. Yeah, it's still exciting, right? Because I love Counter-Strike and I wanted to, you know, be kick-ass always, right? But I think that. And this is a similar thing that happened with Paladins, and I'll explain. It sounds weird to say, but Valorant's finding its own identity as a game, right? When it came out, it was very much Counter-Strike with abilities. All the characters played like Counter-Strike characters with abilities. They all had the traditional abilities. Some of them had, you know, like Omen had his thing, and some of it was a little bit wackier. But for the most part, it was still very much grounded in the mindset of Counter-Strike, right? And this was the same thing that happened with Paladins when Overwatch came out, because Paladins very much was like an Overwatch type of game. It didn't really have a lot of differentiating aspects to it. You literally had a character that looked like Reaper but flew around as if it was like Pharah. You had a character that had you know, the shield like Reinhardt, right? Like all that kind of was happening. But then they got really unique and they made a character called Bomb King, who was just so absurd. It was literally a guy who was a bomb. That was his whole thing. He was just a bomb. And he threw his minions, who were tiny bombs. And it looked hilarious. And it was so cool to watch them kind of like and hear their method on like how they created this character. And then I saw Neon. And I remember when Neon came out, I was like, dude, this game, this does not look like a character that belongs like in a Counter-Strike type game. I found out that one of the guys who made Neon worked on Paladins. and it makes a lot of sense. You know, the Palpatine fingers, right? Like all the ridiculous things that Neon can do. And it really just breaks the way the game is. And I thought that when KO came out, it was going to start leaning more toward, okay, maybe people just want to have CS with like some kind of abilities. But now I am beginning to realize like they're going this route of these abilities being impactful for the round, having a place, and every ability having its own uniqueness to it. But then they're going to start releasing more characters that create counter opportunities to kind of bring it back over to the CS side of things. And I have a feeling like that's just where we're going with Valorant, where it is finding its own identity. It's going to be very different from CS. And it's going to get a point where, and you were even seeing at this tournament, where you can't play this game like Counter-Strike. You just cannot do it. It doesn't work anymore. You know, there's too much.
Wait, who tried to do that?
Well, Carmine Corp.
There's no need for that. There's no need for that. Duelists aren't necessary in the game. All right, come on.
But
just hit the headshot, man. Come on.
I think that is just where we're going to start going with this game, and it's very exciting. And that is what you need to happen. Every game kind of begins to create its own identity. We saw it with Apex. We saw it with, we were seeing it with Valorant. We saw it with, you know, even Paladins, even though it's a smaller game. There is just still those opportunities to create that uniqueness to really separate yourself from the pack. So it is going to be exciting, man. I'm pumped for what Gekko's going to bring to the league, because I think it's going to blow up a lot, especially now that we saw Harbor being used so effectively. Like, man, the compositions are going to be wild this season.
Yeah. I think that's what I've always learned is I'll have my opinion on a new agent, and most of the time it will be wrong. So I'm definitely excited to see what teams are going to bring. But either way, that is it. We have come to the end of our podcast. I think we're getting towards the 2-hour mark, so it's definitely been the longest one we've done. Of course, thank you very much, GB, for joining us. One of the first few guests we've ever had, but I think we're going to try and do this maybe a little bit more regularly. And of course, you're welcome back anytime. We'd love to have you. Hit me up.
I'm always down. I don't get a lot of opportunities to talk about Valorant. I think everyone just looks at me as a fleshy meat bag that just throws the commercial break. And that's really all and I'm only there to, like, just, you know, make fun of Bran and have Mimi shut down my wrestling references, and, you know, but I will say, getting to work with you guys and getting to, you know, be a part of the crew has been just such a joy. And it really is the best part of, you know, going to these international events, because I have a hard time with, like, long travel gigs mentally, and being with all you guys helps it so much. So thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you, man. Same for you.
It just touches the heart.
Yeah, your cold, dead heart.
It's hilarious going anywhere with GB, because, like, we were stood outside the lobby, and like, you just have people come up and constantly tell you about, like, you know, the first time I met GB, and it's always a story of him being, like, the savior of the moment. It's always like he was the nicest guy. Yeah. And then they're like, nowadays though, he just talks about the Rock.
Best fucking guy.
The fame changes people, man. What can I say?
I hate you so much. Jeez. Love you guys.
As said, it has been an absolute pleasure. Of course, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, ring the bell, all that other YouTube stuff, and we'll be back with episode 12 in a week or so. We'll see you then.